Hey, it's the Chief Bonnie with Board Games. We got Skies Above the Reich. And don't worry, I still have this BF-109. Which one is it? The G10. Old P-38 model I put together as a kid. Same with the ME-262. You're going to get to see both of those in the game. And a die-cast little friend. A little P-51 that's going to be zooming in later on in 44 and 45. With drop tanks. But what are we talking about here? So first of all, a little caveat, and I'll say way more about this in the final. This is not B-17 Queen of the Skies in reverse, which is kind of what I thought it was going to be. This is from the German perspective. It is the Luftwaffe trying to take out the heavies. But it is, as much as it even looks like you're going to be running the I always will say it wrong, the Staffel, the flight group, which you are. It's not as much about that, although there is an advanced portion of the game, which is very reminiscent of you being the planes coming in on the, not reminiscent, it is your 109s and whatever coming in on the B-17. But this is way more about a solitaire game that introduces you to the battlefield that took place 20,000 feet up. The box. I'm going to throw in some photos at the end that'll really show what those flight boxes are, and you'll see that more. Heck, maybe I'll throw them in right now because it'll help when you're going and looking at the multiple boards that I'm going to be showing you, which are the battle space. Let's go. Maybe they're up here now. Yes, I'm showing them so you can see the different flight levels in the box and how the tighter formations allowed for more protection. Boom, that's probably enough. Let's go take a look at the actual boards. Multiple boards showing multiple terrain battle spaces. Terrain in the air, baby. The box. All right, first let me give you the lay of the land so you can kind of see what your game space is going to look like. This is formation map 1. On the complete reverse side of this board is formation map 2. If you want to see a look at it, go look at my unboxing video. But you will see a much larger map, hence larger formation of heavy bombers on map 3. Now on the reverse side of this, let me see, one of these is going to peel back, other side, hold on. You will see the formation of bombers. Let me zoom in. And I've bent this over now. You'll see the formation of bombers are 4 in a box, and you can see that level 5. That's like a threat level. Basically, if you fly in there, there's a lot of guns shooting at you. But you can see this map 3 has a formation kind of in that, a triangle formation, and you can see the box numbers there, which again you can see, let me zoom in, you see the 4, and then there's a +1 to that if they're low. Those represent the danger it is to fly your 109 or your German fighter planes into that area to do an attack. So you can see map 3, I've got the unpainted map 4 flipped over and showing. You can see their combat boxes, their flights are different. And then just coming down, we'll come back to the oblique cards there. You can see we've got a different formation in 1942-43. So let me kind of show, and there's 2 main formations. You can see how they're kind of more just in like a little flight, and you can see their combat boxes are much more pleasant with 1s and 2s. All right, I'm going to do a quick breakthrough of how a turn will go using an actual a model 172 scale BF-109G. And then I'm going to go into a little bit more detail, but try not to get too lost in the weeds. So we've got map 1. It's the earliest map if you're going to use the campaign. The older B-17 that's in here, no G model there. How a turn is basically going to go is these planes would form up way outside of the formation. So when they're coming in, they're seeing the planes, or they've gotten an alert that they're there, and they would come in and form up wherever they wanted to. So that is displayed by this. This 109 would be way out on the edge, figuring out, you know what, I want to do an approach from the nose. And I'm coming in low. I've just taken off. I'm climbing up the altitude. Now this plane could spend a little bit more time if it wanted to, or maybe he's got a flight with him or a buddy with him. Sorry, the landing gear's out, obviously be up. He could spend a little bit more time, or in this game, some tactical points, and he could gain some more altitude, maybe come in at a level flight, or even gain a lot more altitude to come in at a high angle. So those could be done on this portion of the board before he really gets close enough to be in what's called an approach box. That's the approach box. If he's in the approach box, now his height, if he's high, level, or low is established. The angle of the attack is established. So he's coming in now. He's screaming in on the formation, and he's picking a single bomber to focus his attack on. The other thing you're doing as you're screaming in is you're deciding how are you breaking back out of this formation. So if I know I just want to run high to low, I'm going to scream through the formation, take my shots, come right on out, and then set up. I would set up in this box over here. Depending on how evasive I was going to be on my attack, or am I very determined, I'm going to really get close before I let loose my guns. Depending on that will depend on, do I just drop through? If I'm coming from high, am I going to dive through the formation, carry on through, take my shots, and when I come out the other side, we'll get to what happens when I'm in here shooting in a bit, I'm going to be reforming up, in this case, on the tail. I'll either be forming up even further outside of the formation because I was defensive, or maybe I'm a little bit closer and I can get turned around and come back in and make another run from the tail. This is a super fast attack. Whether I'm coming in oblique, tail's a little slower because I'm catching up. A lot more time to shoot, accurate, but I can get shot as well. But if I'm coming in, it's a fast, quick thing that we're simulating a lot slower in this game. So, if I'm coming in and I've picked this bomber to attack, I come screaming in, I may even want to break and come back out and dive through and come off to the oblique so I can circle back. So this map is capturing a 3D cubed combat space with the approach, the attack, the exit, whether you're rolling out, diving through, climbing up towards the fighter boxes, your setup for your next run. If you're lucky enough to have one, you might just exit off the map and be gone. You took damage, or it's time to go. You're out of fuel. All done using this beautiful system of boxes, approach, your altitudes, and then mimicking the formation in both space and time. I'm going to go in, dial down a little bit, and actually show you how gameplay works with cards and altitudes and approaches and hits. Again, to show the lay of the land, you have cards that are going to end up representing the actual hits that you make, the fly-through as you're coming through the formation. You'll be doing that if you're attacking from the nose position and from the obliques, or from the 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and if you're coming in from the tail, you're going to have cards that are going to represent your chance to hit the bombers and their chance to hit you in all of these. And there's a continuous fire as well, which is basically you catching rounds from other planes, other bombers, as you're trying to get out of that formation. So why the coffee cups? Well, the big black one has, let me zoom in just a bit, the big black one are going to be chits that you're drawing when you do damage to the B-17s, or to the heavies. They could represent B-24s as well. And the smaller one with the slightly red, you can see the Iron Cross in there, those are damage chits that will inevitably befall your planes as they come through. You're going to have your flight group. This is the literal names of your pilots, the blocks that have corresponding names on them, the blocks, if I can get this to, hello, there we go. The blocks are going to be slightly colored or colored slightly different because that's a function of allowing you to tell. All right, these are both in determined mode. These are able to tell you, if you're playing a two-player game, who's running which fighters. On the reverse side, you will have, if I can get my thumbs, hello, I'm no magician. All right, you can see we have the evasive mode for these BF-109s. The names of the pilots are there. You're going to be tracking skills, expert level, or green. If they're green pilots, they're going to do some things that are going to hurt their chances of surviving. All right, we're rotated over. You're going to have a 10-sided die. There's some chits I'll go into. There's the elevation, some elevation blocks that are going to simply show if you're attacking fighters or at a high level or low altitude. I'm going to continue to call it middle. That's my B-17 Queen of the Skies, if they're coming in from the middle. Well, before we get into these charts, there's setup charts, and there's mission sequence and attacks charts. You're going to see a large player aid here, which is going to list your turn order, and inside that turn order are different chits that are going to give you your tactical points, your flight limit, when the escort fighters will show up if it's an outbound kind of flight, or when they're going to peel out, and then of course your turn order. There's also this whole area down here where your escorts are sitting for the bombers, and all kinds of little charts that are going to show you how they're going to end up coming in and sitting in these staging areas during gameplay. Let me come back to center here, and I'll show you the charts and how easily and quickly they allow you to set up. So, a situational manual. All right, where are you at? You've set up that we're on map 1. There's a little thing that's going to tell you what to do if you're not quite sure. You simply flip and you're reading map 1. Now the question is, you're seeing inbound. So are the is the B-17 flight, I'm going to keep calling them B-17s, that's fine. Are they inbound? Are they headed to the target? If so, you're going to roll a die, and I'm going to explain this in a second, but I'm going to use a different page. Are they, hello? Are they near target? All right, in which case you're going to have some flak and some different things going on. Again, still on map 1. All right, let's say they're not near target, and there's a chart you would have rolled on, so you would have all of this already known and marked down on your campaign sheet. So this is outbound. Let's just use outbound. They've already hit the target. However, you can see what the die roll is showing is not only a representation of the map out here, it's showing damage that's already occurred and which planes are going to have said damage. So you're going to roll your die, and if you rolled the 5 here, you're going to blindly pull a chit out of the B-17 cup, and you're going to place the markers on the corresponding planes on your actual map. What this is giving you is a place in time. The planes have already maybe been hit. Heck, they could have been hit inbound by your flight or a whole nother flight. They've taken some damage. They were over target. They've dropped bombs. There may be more planes that were damaged via flak. All this is doing is showing you how you're going to place said damage. So it's a randomizer that's going to fix this flight at a place in time. The map here is going to fix them in their 3D cubed off space, and the setup is going to tell you what has already happened, who's smoking, who's got an engine out. You're also going to notice that you have your tactical points. You're going to roll your die, your 10-sided die. You're going to then be able to place your tactical point chip marker over there on the turn order. TPs or tactical points are huge. They're how you're going to maneuver on your approach and how you're going to change from levels, but you're going to have to spend tactical points to do that. Flight limit is how many of your planes are going to be coming in on this particular attack. Are you running in really light, or are you coming in really heavy? You're going to have your rule book, and boy does it look thick and feels thick and seems almost somewhat imposing. Not. because all you're really going to need is your mission sequence of play. Now your mission sequence is written here as well, but this is going to be in your right hand, at least for your first few plays. And see if I can bring this in. This is what I'm talking about. All right, your movement turn. I'm going to explain a little bit, but you can literally turn to page 15 in the book. Let me just go find it. There we go right there. And you're going to see move. And it's as simple as what moves. Hit fighters, return boxes, one box to another box. I'll explain all this in a second. Your TP, we've explained some of the tactical points already. Entering, going into the flight. So it's all right here. Then you're going to get move examples. Now I'm not going to open every page as we show you, but that's how this is going to work continually. Every time you see or where you see one of these, it's telling you go to the page, learn more if this brief explanation hasn't jogged your memory or you're not sure how to play. You literally can pull this out, kind of get your situational awareness. Matter of fact, I'll show you real quick and then I'll put it aside, and then we will talk about the advanced rules in a bit later on. There's a kind of a three-fold out. It's going to show you, again, you know, how's aerial combat working with those escorts, the damage boxes if you have a blast or bomb rocket detonation. And the way this is set up, your fighters, is that if you're playing from the early parts of the war in map 1, you're not even dealing with cannons and rockets and bombs. So you're able to pace yourself as you come in. Your turn sequence is move, return, escort, recovery, blast, and flak only if you're if you're over the target or near target. So a lot of times you're not even using this. All right, cohesion we'll come to, and then attack. And attack is a lot more involved, but guess what? You get to flip over the chart, and now you're sitting here and you're walked through the attack, which is more involved, but it's using the exact same process and procedure. And you can see all the pages that you can simply flip to and walk yourself through the game. Opening up is only for advanced game. You don't even need this early on. But as soon as you do, you have a pursuit sequence, and it's walking you through in the exact same style of intercept, setup, first pass, engage, burst, next pass. Bam. It's all right here. Anything you forget, anything you have questions on, you're able to sit here and say, I couldn't quite get it. Turn to the page, and there it is in greater detail. This setup was so simple and easy. You're literally up and playing the game 10 minutes, and that's just because I'm like fiddling with the pieces and looking at the cards and checking out how are these maps different before I even started playing. Let me go into a real quick movement of how this all works, and then we'll pull out and I'll give you final thoughts. All right, I've zoomed in on this portion of the board just to show how you're going to first place fighters on the board, or how fighters will make a run on the bombers, and when they come out of that attack, how they're going to land back in this area. So you have your position boxes. This is a flank, and we are looking at the 8 to 10 o'clock position, which is all explained here. Now, I'm going to explain these later because these are boxes that planes will go into after they've made a run. But let's assume these fighters are coming in on their very first turn. They're coming in on their first approach. Now, there's a few things. When you set up your fighters to come in, you can group them together. There are hazards where if you have a large group of planes coming in from the same location, you have some chances of collision. That's in there. I'm not going to dive deep on it now. You also have the anchored token. If this bomber formation were in a position where there was a whole nother flight off to the side here, or it could be to the tail, or it could be maybe it's the nose if this is the trailing group, you may have an anchored position. Sorry, the glare is terrible. It would be right in there or wherever it ends up. And that would tell you that you can't come in and occupy that space because there's literally, remember, you're in a 3D cube here of space. You can't come in from 9 o'clock level on the flank because there is a whole nother flight there. You can't just set up in a whole nother flight. It's telling you what the situational awareness is. Again, that'll all be set up. Let me get this out of the way so it's not confusing. You also may have, in this case, Spitfire, a little friend, and it'll really tell you how many Spitfires are in that flight group. You're going to have P-38s and P-47s and P-51s, but you may have an escort group. Again, it would be sitting right in here. I'm not liking the glare, which unfortunately is from the light right overhead, so I'm going to tilt it down. That may be sitting there, in which case you might spend, and I'll get into tactical points here in a second, but you're going to have to be real cautious, obviously, of where these little friends are because they're going to pounce on you. And they will get in your way and mess up your approach. Now, we're going to get these out of the way. Just know that's where there's going to be a whole escort phase. That is where they come into play and how they're going to be pouncing on your fighters. Let me zoom in to show so I can show you TPs and different approaches. All right, so again, your tactical points are what you got, points you got in the setup, and you've only got a limited amount of tactical points. So you have an issue where you can take drastic measures, and I could move from this point where I'm at, the low box, and I could spend a tactical point to move all the way over to the high position, which would allow me to set up on a high approach. Now you can see I could just nice and easily with 0 tactical points move over to the level position in my movement, and then I would be set up to come still into the low position if need be, or again I could spend a tactical point to suddenly move into this high approach. So you have tactical points to move you into kind of drastic changes. You could also use a tactical point if suddenly you wanted to move from this whole flank approach. You could use a tactical point and move over to an approach from the nose. Also, key point, if you're in a big flight, let's just say this flight of 2, they only would pay these tactical points for their flights. You keep them together and it's a little bit cheaper, not a little bit, it's a lot cheaper to move them around. They're working as a coordinated, organized unit. In this case, a couple buddies, they're going to stay on with each other, wingman style, and go in and do their attack in a more coordinated way. Now, you can't attack the bomber flights that are in there from these positions. You've got to maneuver yourself into one of these approach angles. Once you're in these approach angles, now you've positioned your fighters to be able to hit the board and come in and do an attack. And I'll show that in a little bit. You see, phase 2 is the return, and that's really as simple as it is. Fighters must leave return boxes, and that's as simple as if they came out of get it on the map here. If they came out of their last phase and they just come out of the formation and they were not evasive, this fighter would be sitting in this box and he's got to leave his return box. If this fighter had just come through the formation on a prior turn and it was sitting in this evasive return box, it's going to move over into the return box. So basically it flew so far kind of out of the formation, it's clawing its way back in. All right, if you have an escort in position, you're going to do the escort phase. If they're on the spot or if they'll move onto the spot, you have a chance for aerial combat. There is a chart which I'm going to bring on, and this chart looks a little busy. Let me even zoom out. Sorry about that. But the chart is very, very simple. You're going to determine the type of fighter you have. You're going to then determine yes or no questions. You're then going to determine what the fighters are that you're going against in the escort. You can see the P-38, 47, the Spitfire, the 51. You're going to then roll and get a die result. So it's a nice little way to give you, do you have a BF-109 against a P-38? Depending on the role, you'll have modifiers based on if you're damaged, if you're carrying certain special equipment, which again, early on, if you're doing the campaign system, you're not going to have those, so you don't even have to worry. And then you simply go to the legend. So after checking the chart, maybe you've taken a loss to a fighter, they've taken a loss, there's a potential dog fight. You're going to resolve those issues, and then you're going to simply move on to the next step. Again, I could dive a little deeper here, but I'm not. So recovery step. All right, the plane has taken a hit. I'm going to again get it out of the glare. All right, it's going to take a hit. You can see we've got a rudder that's hit. We've got the number 5. This is where you're going to come in. You're going to roll your 10-sided die. You want to get equal to or higher than 5. Great. That's no effect. It's a light hit. Now, if I'd been lower, I'm going to return this to the cup. I'm going to take my fighter, and my fighter goes over to the fate box. Now, it's over on the turn track sheet, and this is probably the section that is the most reminiscent. I'm going to see if I can get it in shot here. Hold on a second. Let me put this down. So we're at the fate box. There's a spot if your pilot ends up getting wounded, because you're going to want to see, does he ever rejoin you? You can also see the engine area. Let me pan down a little bit more so you get a little bit wider view. Cockpit, fuselage. So you can see you've got a die result. You've got the type of plane that has been hit. And then you've got whether or not it lands, crashes, if there's a fire, if it explodes. Sorry, I couldn't even see that far. And this is where you've got that randomness of kind of what's going to happen to my fighter. This particular part is probably the only, well, not the only, there's an advanced phase I'm going to show you that's reminiscent of Queen of the Skies. But your plane's been hit. You know, in this case, it was hit in the rudder. All right, and boom, down to the rudder. So even to get on the right area, you can see. So you can see the type of plane that was hit, which in this case is way over on the right. So you can see if I'd gotten a 1 through 6, it's going to crash. The arrow sends me over to bailout. Roll the die. If I get a 1, there's no bailout. He went down with the plane. If I get a 2 or 3, he's bailed out and he's wounded, and he's going to go up into the wounded box. And then there's just the, yes, he's out, he's fine, no problem. Coming back to the map, you would work in on cohesion. So if there was a -2, you might have a formation that's spread out and they're really loose, and it's easy to zip in, and they're going to have a -2 to how effective they are at hitting your fighters on the way in. But just know the cohesion, the tightness of the formation, is going to adjust the danger of which I'm having when my planes start to come in on attack. We'll come back to this in a moment. But let's move to the attack. You're going to see there's a whole approach, engage, the burst, you firing, and then you breaking away and getting out of that formation. So this is us flying into the formation. Let me pull this off. We're going to leave it as if there is no adjustment, and let me go in and explain quickly how this is going to work. All right, we're going to have this flight coming in from the oblique on the flank, coming in at a low position. Low position, they would not have any blocks. Now, if they were coming in from a location where they could be at a level position, again, there is no level position here on the flank, but you would see they would have one block to show their altitude, or if this plane were coming in at a high altitude, when I go to place it on the map, I would designate it with 2 of these, just so that when we get out onto the board, you know what the actual altitude of this flight is. Now again, these are gone. All right, we're coming in at an oblique angle. They're coming in together. I'm going to have one coming in evasive, one coming in determined. You're going to simply angle the planes to come in from the, you're angling, that's the plane they're going to attack. So, for example, if this guy had been coming in from the nose, he would be in this combat box, and I would have his nose pointed at this bomber that he's attacking. So you would know this is the flank attack, this is the nose attack. Same thing goes if somebody had been coming in from the rear. All right, they're in that box, and the position of your fighter tells you which bomber is being attacked. So then the key is, if they're coming in on this bomber, you're going to look into your combat box that you're in, and you can see we have a 2. Again, that 2 could have been modified by This loose formation could have been modified by the kaput element. All of this could factor in to the actual threat of this combat box. We're going to leave it at 2. I've got 2 fighters coming in as I reach across in the same space. So 2 or more, these are not simply, you can see the iron cross is showing damage to a plane, the brown part of the chit. So I draw blindly, I come out. So this would be if they took hits as they flew through the formation. This is a check to see if there is a collision. It says proximity marker right on it. Now, so I've drawn my collision marker. Now there's the rule book, which is great. You're going to see right on your attack sequence. It's going to tell you the page you can go to. You can read it all right here. But wait, there's more. You can see here, here's your hit, which is the flip side. Here's your proximity, but it's even going to tell you, hey, you can go look at the rule book on said page, or simply flip over for your collision check, and you can get the same explanation. So I had an E, it's escape. So if I want to pay a tactical point, I can pay that cost, and the fighter breaks away to the tail position in order to, in a return box, in order to keep from being struck. So yes, I want to do that. I'm going to pay a TP, and instead of having a collision, this guy is going to break away to the tail, and he's going to head to the return spot in the tail. He's not even going to get to make his run. On the approach, they almost collided. He had to peel out almost in a panic. Now he's going to go to the box based on if he was determined or not. He was determined, so he's sitting in the regular return box, not the evasive. Sorry, this guy should be up here. Now if I didn't want to pay the TP, I got to exit him completely off the map. He's evaded, he's gone, woo, he's panicked, he's a little freaked out. Time to go back to base. All right, we've determined collision. Now we got to determine how is this fighter going to continue, or which way is he streaking through this formation? Is he diving away? Is he climbing? So what's his maneuver? Let's say he's climbing through. All right, so we've got to climb, but if I want him to just simply fly straight through on a climb, he's going to go from one flank to the other flank. So he's moving from basically the 9 o'clock position to the 3 position, and he would fly through simply like such. However, he's got the option of also rolling as he's climbing. So if I wanted him to fly through this formation, sorry, I bumped the camera. I want him to fly. He's coming in, he's firing, sorry, he's coming up from below. He's firing, he's climbing, boom, he breaks off and rolls off toward the nose. I could add him roll off to the tail. There could be a simply, as you saw on the other side, there's no roll at all. It's a straight shot through in a climbing mode. So he's coming from the low, he's climbing to the high. That is all going to set this fighter up for where I want, or where the fighter wants to be for the next approach. So in this mode, boom, in this combat box, in this terrain battlefield, he wants to come up from underneath, he's climbing, do his attack from the flank or 9 o'clock position, roughly 8, 9, or 10, and then he's going to be rolling out as he's climbing and moving to a nose position where he'll come back, roll it over, he'll come back and eventually be coming into this position here. We're not there yet, but this is where in my mind, this 3D box, this cube of this flight I'm attacking, he's peeling from a low flank, 9 o'clock, he's going to roll out, and he's going to come in at the high spot to make a future attack, hopefully from 12 o'clock high. So that is the simple concept of what this one little chit will do. The arrow is going to say, boom, is he headed toward a climbing roll to the nose, a climbing roll to the tail, or is he just streaking straight through in a climbing mode? Bam. All right, let's keep it at the nose because we'll end up showing the setup. All right, I've zoomed in, much more personal now. By the way, love the little touch. You see the little shadow beneath the plane, just giving it a little bit more depth. So again, we know, and you can put this counter right on the plane or off to the side. I'm going to put it off to the side for now. We know he's in evasive mode. He's attacking. there is no advantage. He's not in a tight swarm or anything. You're going to come over to this deck of cards, all right, and I'm going to draw a card off here. Now, to keep it on the focus, let me see if I can get it down in there. Great. Okay, so what's our combat box? 2. It wasn't modified. We know we're in this row here for the 2. We did not come in at the high position. There is no level position, so we're coming in from the low position. And the next question is, what are this blue and this gray? Well, the blue is evasive, which matches the blue of this token block, all right? Or was I coming in determined? Nope, the fighter that was coming in determined had to break off because they almost had a collision. So this is my result, all right? You're saying, what is this? Well, this is great. The little bomb sight or the fighter sight means I've hit the bomber. Had there been this explosion here in this area, it would have meant they also hit me. Or sometimes they just hit you. Say, okay, I've hit the bomber. Great. What is the 1? The 1 is, I forget what they call it. I call it travel through. So what's beautiful about these cards is if I'm coming in from a high position, I'm diving through the formation, I'm going to move further through these boxes as I fly through. Again, this is the terrain space I'm in. I'm fighting through a cube of bombers, 3D space, but I'm climbing, so my rate is slower, and I'm moving not quite as fast. So let me zoom out just a tad. So you got to ask yourself, but I'm in a roll, so I'm not going this way. He basically was climbing. He struck this bomber. I'm going to handle that in a second. I really shouldn't handle it well. I should handle it now, but I'm telling you, this also means that his travel through, he's going to pull out and move 1 box away. Now to draw a damage chit. So we're coming in to the damage here. We're picking one of these out. We're going to see that we've done a 10 wing. All right, we're also going to see back on this side, and it's going to have a 1 overall damage to the bomber. If you ever get 10 total hits on a bomber, it goes down, it's destroyed. All right, I've zoomed in on the damage marker, but I've grabbed another one just to see if we'd had a different result. So right off the bat, you can see we've got, hello, get the finger there. You can see this, if I roll equal to, or higher than, which I will not, on the 10, this plane explodes. If it had an arrow marker, so if I'd pulled that engine 5, much greater chance that I've hit the engine, and that down arrow marker means it's falling. It's falling out of formation. So either the drag has pulled it down, the prop won't feather, whatever it is. So again, I pulled the 10 wing, so I rolled the die. Wow, that was close. Whoop, get her on there. I got a 9. So pulling the wing, it wasn't a catastrophic effect. The plane doesn't blow up. Had I pulled the engine marker, I would have been equal or above, and the plane would have fallen out of formation. Let me grab one of those. And you would end up placing the fallen marker on there. You can see the -1. Before we leave, I'm going to show you the advanced mode, that if you're playing advanced mode and the plane falls, you can pursue it down out of the formation and try to knock it down to pick up more victory points. So it was not, I missed the cup. All right. Since it didn't blow up, it is fallen, or it didn't fall even. It would simply have this 1 wing damage. It's like it took a hit to the wing rut. So it's got 1 on it. It's cumulative. All right. We've resolved the damage to the bomber. I cleaned everything up a little bit. The pass-through is occurring. We still have the 1 here. And there's a phase as you're pulling out of this formation. So remember, 3D cube. The BF-109 is climbed from roughly the 9 o'clock position. He's fired on the plane, struck in the wing, and now he's rolling out, climbing, and headed toward 12 high. However, he's not just doing this without taking fire as he goes. So you've got to do your continuing fire deck. It works exactly the same as my prior attack as I came in, but you can see you're not determining high or low. You've changed your position. This is you flying through the formation. I am in a 1 now, if you can see it. This is where it would have been nice if I would have knocked it down. It would have been a -1, but I'm at a 1. I am still evasive, so I'm coming out of there crazy. And you can see there are no more further hits on me here. However, they have this very nice slow climb. And so you would read the effects. If climbing, or climb rolling, sorry, I am climb rolling, break away to the tail position. Holy moly. So I end up not going to the north position, and I end up having to add this factor. So I'm now rolling at a +1. You could see it could have set me up for further hits, even massive hits. All right, but the +1 is again to the number here, and instead of me ending up on the nose where I wanted, I've apparently radically maneuvered to the tail in the high position. This randomizing, let me show you a couple more, is really, really nice. So had I been here, all right, you can see I had the 1, I was evasive, would have been much more dangerous had I not been, if I would have been determined, but now I'm into the sun. And I would have had if climbing or climb rolling, yes, towards the position with the sun, I wasn't, skip continuing fire. But they wouldn't have been able to see me. They would have lost me in the sun if I would have been turning toward it. So you can see how where the sun is would have an effect. The randomness of I wanted to go toward the nose, bad things were happening. I could have even been hit. Boom, I end up peeling back, and now I'm at the tail high position. The random events of the continuous fire are very nice in terms of forcing you maybe into situations that you didn't originally intend to be in. Let me adjust. I'll then show you how this has changed things, and we'll end up placing my fighter back in the tail position, and you can see how he's set up for the very next turn. So here's one of the nice things that's come out of this is instead of him rolling to the nose, because of the continuous fire result, he's actually had to switch and peel off to the tail. But he's got a partner down here at the tail. Let me adjust, which could make things actually work out pretty good. Now again, he was in an evasive mode, so he's in the upper evasive mode spot on his return, but this didn't work out too bad. Now I wanted to come in and give a little quick glance. Let me adjust camera a little bit. So again, if you were working through the game and the manual, and you want an attack example, I've explained to you exactly how the cards work. You can see the engine and the 5 and the rolling of the die, and here they're showing multiple planes working into the formation, and according to their token, how they're working themselves back out of the formation, and then coming down and showing you the results, and it's the pass-through, and it's walking you number by number, which then corresponds to what's going on in this battle space. This, as I set it down, is perfectly explained, visually easy to understand, and it really clears up any issues you may have as you go through. And I can't tell you enough or give enough recommendation that as you're playing through the game, move my continuing fire off my attack sheet, and you're working through the card, again, everything is broken out by page number, and then you see the results when you get into the page, and how clarity is just right there. It's almost as good as somebody who's played it multiple times sitting down and walking you through a turn, because you're trying to work your way through the turn, you suddenly have a question. You're able to refer to the card, which gives you a page number, which then gives you a beautiful picture of what you need to do within the system, within the battle space. And then on top of everything else, it makes sense. You're diving in from a 3D position on a formation. You're then, how are you exiting out? What's the damage done to them, damage done to you? And then where do you end up coming through on said formation, and then it's not that you can't zip through the formation and immediately be in line for another attack. No, you're going out, and the more evasive you are, the further away you are, and now you're turning and working your way back to make another run, hopefully, on the formation. And so the way the battle space has been gamified, not a real word, I know, is intuitive, makes sense. It gives you not only the reality of the situation of how it was, it allows you to tactically work within the reality of what the situation was. And it feels like you're climbing through or diving through the formation. So your advanced rules, real quick, are really small and slender, using the exact same processes of highlighting and pictures and explanations. Very, very well done. But what I wanted to show you are the pursuit maps. So you can see pursuit map for 42. There is no flip side here, but you can see the pursuit map for 44 and the pursuit map for 44 and 45. So not only is the art slightly different, giving you the period in time, the B-17G has a chin turret, and it's a little bit more dangerous to approach. Now, I'm not going to go into detailed explanation on the advanced rules. Enough said, this is way more reminiscent of Queen of the Skies. You're pursuing the lone bomber. You're not within the formation anymore. This guy has fallen out of the formation. You're pouncing it. There's some rule changes that adjust your points and your system and what you're going for. You're going for destruction, and you're getting a bonus for destructing or destroying a plane, so you do want to pursue it and destroy it. But how you approach it, the angle you approach it at, the damage that's done is all laid out here, and you literally move from the formation combat space to this is my target. I am attacking it from the different positions, and I'm trying to destroy this bomber. I want to wipe it out and get rid of it. And I won't go into further details, but it is that extra touch that I'm telling you. As soon as you see it and you're familiar with this system, you want it in. All right, we are back. The battle space that you're operating in feels like really what the battle space was. It feels three-dimensional. It feels like it's not just a single B-17 that you're focusing on. You're not. You're focusing on a flight, but even that flight's not alone. It's got maybe another flight below it, above it, beside it. And it makes flying into those combat boxes extremely nerve-wracking, which is what you want in the game. Your approaches in and out, very, very important. Where the sun's at, where you want to set up, the way you can put, I'm forgetting the German, but you can bring in, I'm trying to still remember it, you can bring in the group of planes together, but you risk collision with each other. I like screaming in from the nose, which is a fast swooping attack, but you risk collision with the bomber. Again, the exit. Are you diving out of it? Are you turning? Are you just streaking through the middle? Where is that setting you up on the edges of the board? Or did you come in evasive, in which case you're really way far out there? Or are you a little bit closer? Did you take damage, in which case you're going to be stuck even slower as you come into the next flight in, if you're able to recover at all. The way your flight may come in well coordinated, and then as you continue your waves of attack, it gets more and more haphazard and scattered. And you can try, you try to reform but this guy's just getting in here. This one was in at the tail, and he's making, it's a longer approach. He's got a lot more time on target. They have time on target on him, but he's in there twice, basically. he's still firing while the other ones have come out and they're reforming to come back in. Are there little friends out there? Where are we at? Are we inbound? Hello, we're going to get them before they even drop the bombs. Are they over the target or near target? In which case you're going to factor in the flak. You get to see what's going on there. Are they on their way back out? In which case you got a couple chances, a couple turns to hit them before the little friends can even show up. Great. The advanced game. Play the first one without the advanced game, but boy, do you want to have the advanced game in. You're going to probably mid-first game, and let me come back to the components and the maps in 1 second. Mid-first game, you're going to start going, that B-17 has fallen out of formation. I want to go get it. I want to go get it. And then you're going to go get it. And then you're going to pull out that, and now I'm blanking on the name of the board. You're going to pull out the little advanced plane board. I'm trying to bring that name up now too. And that is going to feel a lot more at that point like B-17, Queen of the Skies, and you're on the flip side. Your approaches, the board even, although they've cantered that B-17 to the side, the 3 different B-17 years models that are in, the B-17G, the all silvered up, it's unpainted, no need. The way the chin turret and the, I can't remember the name of the upgraded tail turret, how those are going to affect what's going on. The little friends as you advance through campaigns, and I've only played 2 or 3 games of this. I haven't played any campaigns yet, but how you're going to be trying to take it through the years, and you get to see the attrition that's occurring and the damage that your flight group takes and how it becomes more and more ineffective. The different techniques that were used. They've got a tight formation, great. Let's put a Junkers up there and let's drop bombs on the formation. Yeah. Let's sit off, hang out, and put rockets in and launch them in there. Let's load more cannons. Okay. Let's pop out. So first of all, you're not going to be tricking it's not all about what type of BF-109 you have or the FW-190. That part is way more abstracted. It's not like you're really in the 109 and you're flying it. It's much more like you're the commander orchestrating it, hoping that your guys come back. And although you get into that element when you do then pick the routes in which they're going to take to come in, but your thought process there is, I need those planes back. I need those men back. I've got an ace pilot. I don't want him knocked down. And, I've had a pilot taken out, and I've got a green pilot, and I've lost him. Now that's gone. That slot's gone. So that's more of at least my mental space, is I feel much more like the commander that's then able to orchestrate how those attacks are going to take place up in the battlefield space. Components, GMT, wow. Holy moly, wow. All the boards you get and how they reflect the changes that happened in that battle space. Of course, the game designer's coming up with, because I wondered even when I got it, I love the B-17. I totally understand the approaches and how they came in and how they were moving in on these planes early on and how imposing that box was. And I was thinking, how are they going to show this? The idea of the tactical points and that you come in at this location, but if you want to move or slide or change, it's going to take one of your tactical points that are sitting over there on the turn track, but you only got so many of those. So at a certain point, are you just going to, okay, I've came in high, dove through, I'm now at the low position at the tail, and I'm just going to try to come back in, but I can move over to this one. It won't cost me anything, but I'm going to go ahead and move one spot to the middle position to change where I want to go with my next attack. Then I'm going to fly off so I can be at the 9 o'clock position in the next one. and you're managing those entries and exits out of the combat and the changing elevations and the way that you will just take the simple blue blocks to show 2 blocks as you're at the high, 1 block you're at the middle, low you don't have a little blue block on it at all. So you can see the space that you're occupying out in the battle space to give you that dimension. The way that if you mix your tacks up and you're coming in from 2 different locations and you're high and you're low, you get a bonus. Or if you're coming in together, you're really giving them a swarm. I've just remembered the swarm, and how you're then able to focus some of your attacks. Beautiful. And again, the component quality blocks are perfect. It kept things simple. Adding in your maneuver token to just which way you're pulling out of that attack. Great. The idea of how are you situated for your next attack? Where are the little friends at? Where are they sitting at? The continuous fire cards that come in, the cards at all of I'm attacking from the tail. How do I randomize that? Am I looking up a bunch of charts? No, you're simply flipping a card. What's my altitude? Was my approach aggressive or evasive? And then the randomization of well, not the randomization, but then what's the combat danger of the box that I approached from? And then the randomization of, oh, on this card, a 2 is a hit or a miss or whatever. A great touch and approach. Now, speaking of the way it's taught to you, it can seem a little overwhelming at first. And it'll tell you right off, right at the get-go, you don't really need to read this rule book. You can take this handy guide, this fold-out helper guide, and just start working through your turn order. And I'm thinking, really? Yeah, really. Now, here's what I did. I had the book open, you're going through, and it's referencing your page order, and you turn, and there's this beautiful, like, blue Luftwaffe color, and you just say, okay, make sure I'm doing my this phase of the turn right. Yeah, good, great. And then maybe the second time I'm through there, wait, what was that thing again? How am I pulling out? What's the, oh yeah, okay, right there. Easily referenced, walked through. It's a great game. It really shows you that attack space. The solitaire nature of it is phenomenal. I have not played it with 2 people. Personally, I love sitting down with this and quietly puzzling over what I want to do. But if you want that 2-person nature, it's there. Again, component qualities through the roof. You've seen that already. Enough said. Great game. Different feel for a war game. Perfect battle space presentation. Chief, bonding with board games. Woo! See you guys.